Good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016. We'll go ahead and have the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Hernandez, you would like to lead us, please?
I'd love to. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. Diane, can we get a roll call, please?
Director Ellisar?
Here.
Director Evans?
Here.
Director Hernandez?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Director Small?
Here. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Anybody see Mike out there?
Not yet.
Come to the doors, okay. Oral communications. If there's any persons wishing to address the matter not on the agenda, may be heard at this time. However, no action will be taken until the matter is placed on a future agenda in accordance to board policy. I don't see any, so we'll move right along. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and just to make things official, all matters listed under the consent calendar will be voted upon by one motion unless somebody pulls an item, which I'm actually going to pull an item to discuss from the board or from the public to be removed and to be considered separately. I don't want to pull an item. I just have a question on the warrants list. Tom, there's about, I don't know, a third of the way down on page 1 on the warrants list, there's video production for Jeffrey Caldwell. Do you know what that is for?
Which page you on?
It's the warrants list, page 15 in the packet, but it's the first page of the warrants list.
Okay. The first page is warrant list. Oh, there's Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's about a third, the first, right underneath the city of Carlsbad.
Yeah, I see it. I have to get back with you on that, what that is exactly.
Is that first name Jeff?
Yeah, Jeffrey Caldwell.
That may be the individual over the city that was,
Oh, that's for our videos here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's under video production, so I didn't know if that was something, okay. Okay, super. And then we also have it's small, but the Boys and Girls Club of San Marcos ad sponsorship project. It's $35, but did we purchase like a newspaper ad or something?
It was like placemats at a event.
Oh,
Yeah.
placemats.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pancake breakfast.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, December.
Anybody else have any questions about anything on the consent
I
calendar?
just have one question. Jeffrey Caldwell, is that a monthly fee? Do we know, is that every meeting fee?
I don't think it's monthly, because I haven't seen him on there monthly. I'd have to check with you on that.
Okay, if you could, I'd
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion and we had a second. All in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to action items, 2.1, ordinance 194, business of the board. If you remember from our last meeting, we had a discussion and followed by a vote to change our meeting times from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. Am I missing anything, Tom?
No, that's it. This is to
That's the only
formalize
change.
it
This is
with
just to
the
formalize it?
actual, to get it in a resolution.
Okay, and
Move to approve.
motion, and there's a second. I think we should do a roll call.
This will be roll call.
Okay.
We do. This would be ordinance 197. Director Ellisar?
Yes.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes,
Director Small?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 2.2, the CSDA Board of Directors call for nominations, seat B.
Yes, the CSDA has 6 regions, and each holds 3 seats. And it is a 3-year term that each hold. We're in Region 6, the most southern region. And right now, they're calling for nominations for seat B. So each year is a different seat. Next year will be seat C. It just rotates each year for the 3-year term. There is an incumbent that is running again, Bill Nelson, you may know him, he's actually come to the board before to present, probably 3 years ago, actually, when last time he was running. And item is just to see if there's anybody interested in being nominated. It could be, but it has to be by May 29th is when we submit. It also has to be a resolution is required to submit for a nominee.
Okay. Any discussion? Anybody interested?
We have a little bit of time on this because it's May 20, so, but as long as,
Okay, so I don't see anybody jumping up, so, but if you change your mind between now and May, let us know. Okay, we just moved.
And I'm sorry, Tom,
yes,
what is the definition of what you have to do listed on that?
yes, it is.
I don't
Yeah,
have it
would
with
be
me.
It would have to come before the board, and either a board action or a resolution.
No, I
And then
meant
there's a form.
what
Like a
your.
job description.
The job
Oh, the duties?
description. I don't remember it in
It's
my
in the writing.
packet.
Yeah,
but
it's in here.
It was, okay,
Yeah.
it's my fault, I don't have
Yeah.
it with me, thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate it, no problem.
So we don't need to take any action on
no,
that.
no
right?
action required.
Okay, and then, item 2.3 is the San Marcos State of the City address that I
Yeah.
believe, a few of us had attended, but Tom, you wanna give us a background on that?
Yes, in fact, on the ordinance, we just, or the resolution rather, that, from the first action item, is our board conduct, and on there's a list of organizations that are authorized. City of San Marcos is not one of our authorized, organizations, so if we attend an event, gotta get board approval for per diem
Case by case.
and expenses, yeah, and so that's why this is before you to,
I would
for
move to
action.
approve the per diem for the city of San Marcos State of the City address.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, any discussion?
I'd just like to ask if I believe last year we did not pay a per diem. Last year, we had a table at the state address, can't remember, it was at the Green Gable place, and we didn't pay per diem, we had gone with simply, and kind of like doing a Christmas parade or something.
Mhm.
So, my personal feelings on it is just not the best use of money spent to go to the chamber thing. I believe in the expense, and the per diem is not necessary, but the expense, just my own personal feelings.
Okay. Any other discussion? Director Martin?
Yeah, I was just like to say, last year, I think we actually sponsored a table, which after seeing the poor response we got from the board as to who attended, we didn't really have that many people to fill the table. It's like, let's not do that again. That was a mistake. And not for the Chamber of Commerce, though, it's for the state of the city, it's for the mayor, for our outreach program. When I was there, I was representing Vallecitos Water District, and the conversation at my table was about Vallecitos Water District almost the entire time. So I think it's very worthwhile for board members to attend certain functions, city functions. And that certainly was, although under the guise of a chamber event, certainly was a city function. And we did get a shout out from the mayor, who mentioned us twice.
You did?
Twice by name and twice by Vallecitos, that we had joint meetings. I mean, so he let everyone in the room, 320 people, know that we work together, so I thought it was very worthwhile.
Director Hernandez?
And I would ask that we bring these particular items forward on an individual basis, not just a blanket, so that we can identify whether or not it fits into our outreach program. On this one, I do believe
Yeah.
it does, but
That's
my
our
carte blanche.
normal course, we will bring them to you. If they're not on the list, they come before you.
Yeah,
Director Evans?
I know last time it was with the chamber, but the two before that were not. They were at the barn and they were state of address, and I remember that at that time, we also did not accept a per diem, we only accepted expenses. And I feel that just because we get a shout out, that's great, we should definitely be there. I don't know that our being there is necessary that we are reimbursed or paid $200 to attend for a shout out. Has nothing to do with whether we sponsor a table or not. My feelings are, as a ratepayer, I wouldn't really want to pay you $200 to go to the state of address. I don't think my other ratepayers would, so.
Any other?
Its history is that when Director Martin and I first came on board, we had a session with the other board, and this was one of the things we said we didn't feel we wanted to spend money on because we didn't think it was necessary, and in just history, it hasn't been. Anyway, I'm done.
And I just, for my comments is I would just, I do agree with Director Martin, but for me, this is not about a shout out, this is more about community outreach. And the last 2 years, this board has focused heavily on reaching out to the community in every way we possibly can, and this is just one more part of that, so. Director Martin, you had a question?
No, I was just gonna reiterate that we didn't have as robust outreach program as we do now with the board. It's involved, I don't believe, 4 years ago. Now we certainly do, and then the public needs it. We need to do it, and the public needs it. The questions are out there on a constant basis, and the public has no way of getting information. It's not an event that I particularly would have attended this year. I would not have attended had I not been a member of the board of Vallecitos Water District. Not something I would do in my normal way of life, so I think for the outreach, it's very important.
Director Evans?
I agree it's important, and I'm glad you were there, and I'm sorry that I couldn't make it this time. And I do feel that we're doing a lot of outreach to our community, but what I'm hearing you say is we're doing this outreach because we're getting a per diem, and that you wouldn't show up if you didn't get the per diem, and I think that's an unfortunate expression. I think for something like the city, we should be able to go.
I think you misheard him, but because we have a heavy agenda tonight, I'm gonna limit you
No,
one more
you
comment.
think I was,
I'm
sir?
sorry,
You misheard
I'm
him.
gonna end the tit for tat with Director Evans by saying that was not my intent, that is not what I meant. Twist it how you may. The reality is, our outreach program is very important to us. We spent a lot of money on it and not received what we should have gotten for it, which is neither here nor there. But I think I'll be going out with gyms when I meet people. The original one we had is better than what we ended up with.
Okay, we have a motion on, it's been seconded. It's not a roll call, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No?
Motion passes 4-1. And you were a yes, right? Okay, moving on to 3.1. General Manager's report.
Yes, just a couple things to report, actually. From our Finance Committee, there was one question about mitigation property, and it's a pretty easy one. I can probably take care of that now. Not a long list. It's very rare that we actually go out and get mitigation property. Usually the question was, well, what kind of mitigation property is out there? How much, mitigation property have we purchased? And very rare. Usually we take care of mitigation at the site, and if we can't, then we'll look to a bank if there's any available mitigation property. Mitigation property cost between $25,000 and $500,000 an acre foot. It's a huge range depending on what you're mitigating. So we have two. We've bought into two banks only. One is the Heights of Palomar Mesa Partner Mitigation Bank, and that's in Fallbrook. And we bought 2.12 acres for the Metal Arc Tank project, and that was at a cost of $48,336. That was back in 2007. And then we also, from that same mitigation bank, because it was cheap, we bought 1.72 in reserve. We can use that in reserve. When it becomes available, that's why it's in the budget, when it becomes available for that cheap, we're going to grab it. The other one was just a recent one, Wildland SLR Holdings Mitigation Bank, which is in Santa Luis Rey River, and that one was a riparian habitat, so it was a little bit more money. That was 0.43 acres for $247,250, and that was relatively recent. That was the outflow access project, and that's it. And the other, we have, of course, easements all over the district, and the other part is the Grove, is the only other land we have. That's it. Is there any questions on that? Yeah.
Director
A
Martin.
quick question, where does the hill behind us fall in?
Yeah, that's part of this whole, our headquarters property. Couldn't do anything with it because there's a tribal, what do you call it, architect?
Archaeological.
Archaeological, thank you.
Sure,
Site.
and that's, the total acreage that's not disturbed now is part of an archaeological, is that it? Is that what you're saying, the total acreage is? Or just
Yeah,
part of
I
it?
didn't report on the property behind us. That's, just consider that part of our headquarters. Yeah,
Okay, I'm
we
just-
own our own property here as
Yeah,
well.
I'm just trying to find out if all of it is, or just part of it is being held off. I
Pretty
don't
much
know.
the hill you see behind us if you were to
Well,
drive
it's
back.
gonna be a legal description, not pretty much.
I don't have a legal parcel description for you off the top of my head, but you can pretty much see the whole thing from the back window.
And I guess my question is, how has that been set aside? Who's caring for it?
That's,
If it's in a mitigation bank of
yeah,
some type,
we
it's being
maintain
cared
it for purposes of water runoff, we maintain a brow ditch. That's about all there is to maintain, the rest is just, natural. That's not mitigation property back there, that's just property that we bought with this headquarters.
Okay, that we can't do anything with.
Correct, because if it's,
According to what document can we not do anything with it?
Jeff?
I think we'd have to go back and research it, but what my recollection was, is this, there was a lot of rattlesnakes on this property when we first came here. And it turned out there was some sensitive habitat.
Yeah.
There was some flies in a marsh over here around the engineering side. And it was very comical, okay? And they said, you can't touch the hill.
Who said?
I believe it was when we went through the CEQA process and the acquisition process and the permitting process, we were told, and I don't know whether we gotta go back and look and let you know, but the powers that be told us, don't touch the hill and set up for, I don't know how many years we ran out here. We had a fence around a fairly large area of property that was dried up. And it has some precious,
Vernal pool.
vernal pools that are common to the area. And other than that, it was developable, and then we basically swapped some stuff with the city so that they could put the ballparks in, and the kids could have a ballpark over there. And that's basically what you have it, but I'm sure we can go back in the archives and look and see whether it was the feds or the state, or who told us we couldn't touch that property in the back.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
If we can never touch it, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's always been my understanding.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they found some.
I'm just wondering, besides rattlesnakes, and I know that a lot of our directors and staff found the Indian arrowheads, and other than that,
Yeah.
what specific document says we cannot use it, and what part can't we use?
Yeah, and then-
There's gotta be something telling us that.
Oh, yeah, no, I believe there is, because we had surveyors out here, we had birdmen out here.
Great.
We had nesting, we
Birdmen.
had, it was that we had a bird guy killed us, when we couldn't do work for a long period of time, because something was nesting, and, I don't wanna be facetious, but there was a lot of stuff going on here, and the only thing I found out here was an architect and rattlesnakes. That was about it.
And I appreciate that, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like I said, all I wanna know, and I hope it
Okay.
stays open like that forever, all I wanna know is what document tells us we have to do that. That's all I wanna know.
Okay, we'll find it for you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd be curious. Thank you.
One other item is the special board meeting for March 24th at 1 o'clock. We've heard from 3, but not everybody yet to confirm that date and time. It's at 1 because Brent, has an early flight that evening, and that's the only time he can make it.
So I was, in lieu of responding to everybody via email, because this is regarding our closed session matter tonight, I have some stuff I'd like to talk to the board with regards to that particular meeting. So can we get back to you after the closed session?
Yes, yeah, but he needs to schedule his time, so as soon as possible.
Well,
Drop me
can
email.
you wait like another hour?
I don't know. Let's see.
Might be two,
So-
might be three.
Might be 2.
It won't be
It might be
3.
3.
Okay, super.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
I brought Bentley.
Mr. Scott,
Okay,
you should be all refreshed.
without mentioning any names, we'd like to schedule a closed session for a contract. We've looked at some of the documents and the timeliness of it, and so we'd like to have a little closed session discussion at the next upcoming meeting. And, we'll provide you some information, discuss it, and then the board can make some determinations as to what they want to do.
Yep, and that will be on
I was just gonna look that up, March 16th.
16th?
Yeah, and then after a 7-month legal battle, Metropolitan, I guess just about 10 days ago, coughed up the names and addresses of thousands of Los Angeles residents who received cash rebates for replacing their lawns. There was a public, we got bombarded with public record requests these days, and one of the requests recently was the names and addresses of anybody that got a turf rebate.
Oh.
Why that's a significant issue,
Oh,
you know, and we argued that, you know, public policy is such that really the public interest doesn't outweigh the privacy issues, and the court didn't agree with that. So that's basically what we're faced with these days. I mean, you know, I'm all for transparency and it's important and everything, but I gotta tell you, we're just it's gotten to the point of being kind of ridiculous, the things that they're requesting. I mean, we've got an email request the other day for terms like, what was it?
Oh my
Holy
God.
crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh.
I mean, you know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I spent some time on the phone, not on behalf of this agency, but just in general, as an attorney who's been practicing in this area, asking really what's the relevancy of where are we going with all of this stuff and why? I mean, really, is this necessary? And it's really caused a lot of time-consuming time for the staffs of these agencies that have had to look through all these emails and redact in some cases, and it's just, it really doesn't, it's just unnecessary, but people, they're using, it's got to the point, what I was trying to explain was it's got to the point where the Public Records Act is actually kind of being abused. The intent is so that people could get important records and documents, and we certainly want to do that. But when you're just fishing on fishing expeditions, people have their jobs to perform, and so what happens is, you know, particularly in smaller districts, you have the secretary, or, you know, and he or she's got some work to do, and this really consumes and eats into their time to get their job done, and this is not appreciated by some of the people that are requesting these things. They just send these things out, we have to respond to them, and they are taking more and more valuable time, I think. That's, you know.
Mr. President. This was discussed in the DC meeting by a number of people, and my understanding is we can charge for that time to get these documents?
Not really.
Just a hard copy.
The
20
copying.
25 cents a hard copy.
Copy machine.
Yeah, I mean, 15, 20 cents, I mean, you can charge for the copying costs, and there is some language in there, but whenever we've tried to utilize that under the Public Records Act, to try to use this, to charge the time of the person having to go and research and do all of this stuff, the courts have not favorably looked at it.
Really?
Yeah,
In
they're
fact,
just not interested in it. These are, you're limited to your copying costs, and that's it. And it's unfortunate, but that's basically where we're at.
And a lot of requests are specifically for digital, because they know that
Yeah.
we can't charge them.
Yeah, and then they don't have to pay the copying costs, so it's a real challenge. I mean, it's getting more and more difficult.
Dr. Martin.
Is the attorney population trying to do anything about this? I mean, politicians and attorneys generally one each is one is each. I mean, that's.
Well, we do a lot of griping, okay? I mean, and I hate to say that's not very effective, but you gotta understand that you know, this is basically coming from the legislature, and there's a very strong public policy from the courts that everything is, you know, the public's right to know, and which we're all in favor of, and it's appropriate, but it's just like, you know, so many other things, that it sometimes gets to be, the pendulum goes so far, and that it gets to the point where a lot of time, there's an unappreciation for the time that has to be spent and devoted to try to get some of these records and go on these Easter egg hunts. And that was, the one the other day, frankly, we didn't know initially whether or not to take it seriously, or whether it was, and I had to confirm that it was an actual serious request, because it was being sent to, you know, public agencies all over the county. And I was told, oh yeah, this is the real deal, and it's real, we're serious about it. And if look, if it was something we could change from the lawyer's standpoint, we would be more than happy to restrict it. The problem is we're swimming upstream with the legislature, because these kinds of things are not popular to try to, get passed. So,
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
no,
Well, welcome back.
thank you.
We missed you. Blaze missed you. He had to sit here.
Enjoy.
Director Evans, anything from the San Diego County Water Authority?
Actually, there's quite a bit. First of all, we have a new general counsel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you knew that, I've already lost his name.
Dan.
Dan Henschke.
Henschke had resigned, retired before the end of the year, I do believe. So we just hired a gentleman, his name is Tom Hatton. And although it's public knowledge and you can look in what his contract deal is, they got him at an amazing price with an amazing willingness. He's just so excited to do it, and he's very confident that they'll love him so much he'll get a great bonus at the end of the first
Ah.
year. But seemed like a really nice gentleman. So we went through that process. And do you know Tom?
No, I don't.
At all?
No.
He does have experience in the water, but in the water industry. Everyone was quite excited about that. Then under legislation, conservation, and outreach, the Water Authority is co-sponsoring AB 33, which is a measure to, well, I'll just read what it says, to determine what role large-scale energy storage, such as the large-scale hydropower pump station, could play as part of the state's overall strategy for procuring a diverse portfolio of resources. This, so they're very excited to be co-sponsoring that, and they're hoping to support, I'll get the right number for you. There's only two bills, actually, they want to support. One is to encourage CEQA to give us a little bit of a more expansive definition of recycled water and what those projects are, so we're not as limited by CEQA. And then there's one they're opposing unless it's amended, which sounds at the first like a good thing, and it's the state wanting to demand fees for, to define excessive water use, and then have set fees at $500 per 100 cubic feet. But they feel like it's already there, and what it's doing is becoming a state mandate and trying to take the control from each local agency, because the agencies have already set up their ways of doing it. So at this point, they feel like it's one more grab for the state to take it away from the local agencies and the special districts. In imported water, we had a very interesting one. Metropolitan is now working on their rate structure and new fees, and it will be supposedly be done in April. But the first thing right off the bat was they set up a 4-workshop process, and then they decided that in the public hearing will occur before the cost of study survey. So there's this, how can you ask the public to make a decision when the cost of service isn't done? So there's that challenge. They say that the overall annual rate increase will be 4%, but if you break it down by the different tiers, it's untreated will be from about 12% increase, followed by a 4.4 increase. Treated water will go up from 3.9 and then follow the next year in 2018 with 3.7. And their wheeling rate is going to escalate by 6.2, and then the following year by 4.5. And if you break it out, it actually is a 16 to 22% increase for the San Diego County Water Authority because of the way it's stacked. So there's a lot of interesting controversy going on there, and we are also approaching, just started our, what's that big long name? The Urban Water Emergency Management Conservation Plan. But we need it to, and what I would like to do, and it's probably not the right time, but it's real close to it, is what I would really like to do is schedule the Water Authority, if possible, in the next agenda, just do a little presentation and bring all of you up, because I'm a little nervous about what falls under closed session comments and not. And I'd like them to explain where we're at and what they're trying to do, if next meeting would be possible. I know that's not, I'll do this side, you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, just future.
In the future item, I'll bring it up then.
I had a question. Are you done?
I think,
I don't know if it's best for Jeff or for you, but is it common for legal counsel to get big bonuses? You mentioned he's so confident that he's gonna get a big bonus,
well, they do
How's
have
that work?
performance bonuses.
as in, for all the employees down there, or is that?
I believe it's for all the administrative people. There's possibilities of performance bonuses, and it's,
Okay, let me just say, under the California Constitution,
I probably used the wrong
it's
word.
a gift of public funds to provide bonuses to public employees. So I've always been very careful with boards to make sure that we don't, there are contexts which you could set up some certain milestones and in the contracts themselves, where if this happens and this happens and this happens, then you might be entitled to extra compensation. But I think it's a slippery slope, and I think you have to be careful in the public agency context, because there is this constitutional provision that prohibits the gift of public funds. But I'm sure that they've got a contract down there that they feel reasonably comfortable with, but I don't think it's, it's something that certainly if I was counseling the board, I would tell you to be very conservative about, because it's, bonus programs for public agencies are I don't think are good things. But
I would
if they
agree.
have guidelines, mileposts, it has to be very clear in the contract how you meet those goals and objectives, and therefore this kicks in. Otherwise, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And it is on, you can look the contract up if you want to look
Yeah.
into
I'd
the
do.
details of it.
Yeah, I would.
It's public knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bonuses and 16% water increases kind of don't go hand in hand too well with me, but I'll look at the contract. Any other?
I'm sorry, the what?
Well, so your two parts of your reports was this guy's very confident he's gonna get a big bonus, and then they're gonna
Let me
increase our
remove
rates by
that.
16%.
That was just one of the aside comments, as everyone was saying, they were very complimentary that he accepted a contract, that some people said he's gonna do a lot of work for not that much.
That's nice of him.
That was very nice. And they said, well, he is entitled to performance
Some
increases.
sort of performance.
Increase. And he's just confident that we'll want him for more than
Met has the
the next year.
16%. not the
Maybe
water.
the word.
It's
Pardon?
Met, not the
Met
water
has
authority?
16%.
Okay.
And the increase is from Met, not here. We're still.
So the bonus is gonna be on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bonus will,
We haven't got to that part yet.
but no, that's Met. And I did want to say, you mentioned the transparency issue, and I totally agree with you on the issue of the public's right to know everything. But what's interesting about this question on the turf program is that Met spent, and it was excess revenue, so it was an it was an unexpected expenditure, and they spent whatever that last, what was, 1.5 million or
Yeah.
billion dollars on turf replacement that was totally unexpected, and they're now in a situation where they're actually talking about going to seeking bond and funding to pay for their pay-go stuff because they've used up all their reserves. It's just very, very
Wow.
poorly managed. So I think part of that push on this in particular is people wanting to know how could you go through that much money in such a short time and who got it? And some of the people suspect it's lots of people who were in the district. So I don't know if it is or not, but that's, I agree, you don't want to feel like they can invade your privacy, but on the other hand, it's pretty nasty what's going up there, and that's why I really want them to talk to you.
Yeah, and I think, the turf program is one thing, but the other, on the fishing expedition as to,
Oh, yeah.
emails to me, I think is more in the abusive side. I think they had some legitimate interest here to find out, because I understand there was $300 million was set aside for rebates, and I could understand they could find out, well, how much did you actually use and who got it?
And who got it, yeah.
And it's very interesting.
Director Martin?
I have a quick question. If you know the answer, you may not, and I'm not asking this to be a wise guy, I really mean this. Performance bonuses strike me always as an interesting subject, because, and I don't know if the water authority does this normally. Do they do it with their CEO? Do they do it with other members? I don't know. I'd like to know if they do, because then the other side of that performance bonus is if you don't perform, in other words, if you don't do your job, you're fired automatically? Does that work like that?
I don't think it works that way.
Well, then, how do you give a
I'm
performance,
not-
wait,
I'm
if
not-
you do a good job, we're gonna pay you this much. If you do a better job, we're gonna pay you, but if you don't do the job, we want you fired, and it's okay. I don't get that, so I'm just interested in finding out if the rest of the water authority, because my guess is it's
And
the
it-
first time they've done it.
Well, I don't know if it's the first time, okay, and I'm sure they've developed over there, and I haven't been following it, but generally speaking, historically, the water authority paid a salary to the CEO, and they paid a salary to the general counsel, and it was, but I'm going back a few years ago, and this may have evolved and is a different animal now, but I still think it's I think it's not the preferable way, but that's, they get to run the railroad the way they would like.
Thank you.
Did you have something? Okay. All done, Director Evans?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 3.4, Director Elithar for Director Hernandez. Anything going on down in Estina?
For the main meeting, I was not at the meeting or at the conferences, and so I do not have a report.
Yeah, there was no Policy and Finance Committee since our last board meeting. We meet next week, Tuesday, the 8th.
Most significant thing at the EWA meeting was the last meeting for Kevin.
Oh, yes.
It was GM's last meeting after he's retired. Yeah.
Was it a big party?
I wasn't invited if there was.
Oh.
I don't know.
No, me neither. Okay, moving on to 3.5. Director's reports on travel, conferences, and seminars. Why don't we start? We'll go left to right this time. Director Evans, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
Okay, Director Elithar?
Yeah, I attended the CASA and Aqua Joint DC conference last week. First time I've done that, very educational. The CASA conference was the first early in the week. A lot of great speakers, a lot of really good panels. There was one on drought and water quality that had a whole bunch of congressional committee staff as the participants, very interesting. There was a cybersecurity panel, a couple other really good speakers, Ron Fournier, a senior political reporter with the National Journal, and Charles Fishman, author of The Big Thirst, were both the keynote speakers. Second day, we did congressional visits with congressional staff from the 50th District, which is Duncan Hunter, also the 49th District, which is Darrell Issa, and we also met with staff for Scott Peters in the 52nd District, covering San Diego. And so we talked about legislation that CAS is supporting and looked for their support. Staff was very supportive on the bills that we were looking for their support on. So that was a very interesting process. And then Aqua, it was a good program too. We first day listened to Senator Feinstein talk about the drought relief bill that she reintroduced after last fall. And then we listened to, I believe it was 10 California congressmen from both sides of the aisle on their perspectives on California water issues. Very interesting. Leave it at that.
The only thing I attended was just this morning, matter of fact. I went to the San Diego North Economic Summit, their third annual one, at the La Costa Resort and Spa. It was interesting. One of the opening speakers was Supervisor Dave Roberts, and he was kind of giving kind of an overview of why he was there. And one of the things he said, I think it was first or second sentence out of his mouth, was, when he's asked what keeps him awake at night, there were a few of them, but the very first thing was water-related issues. And so I thought that kind of, even though this was an economic summit, not a water summit, it just goes to show you that water is still front of mind of our local leaders. Of course, there was an economist from Wells Fargo who gave a really interesting and fascinating presentation kind of about the macro economy, and you know, the big takeaway for me was that, in his opinion, the economy's nationally is gonna probably grow 1.8 to 2% this year. But more, even what I really thought was fascinating is that he thought that oil had a lot more still to possibly drop. And that he didn't think that we'll see the bottom of oil until we start seeing a lot of the smaller to mid-sized oil-producing companies either be acquired by the bigger ones or go out of business completely. And he seemed to think that we're not there yet. So that was interesting. I think he mentioned that the last series of big acquisitions took place when oil was at $9 a barrel. And I think it's around 30, 33 right now. So I can't even imagine it being at 9. So that was fascinating. Not really too, you know, it was more of a macro thing. But we had a couple panels today, and a couple of the developers that are doing business within our water district were on the panel. So that was good to hear from some of our local constituents and those who are building in the area. Of course, in their opinion, housing's you know, there's a crisis out there. There's not enough of it. So, you know, I think we've heard that before, and it was just all in all, it was really good, and it was 300 plus people there. The mayor was there, a couple of the council members were there, and Mayor Carlsbad as well, and it was a good event. So, I think Jim, you attended too, so maybe you can add to that. Director Martin.
Last week attended CSDA along with many of you down at the butcher shop. It's the dinner. It was really on IT, a very strong IT presentation on hackers and problems, and I thought it was very good. I would think, and I mentioned this to some people that are on the board of the CSDA locally, that, you know, really the speakers they have there are very important for us, and if they have someone like that, maybe we should be bringing our head IT person down to listen to it, because there were a few IT individuals there that asked questions that, trust me, nobody but an IT person knew what they were talking about. You know, we're all sitting there looking at each other going, what are they even talking about? You know, you're using this program, using that program, but it was very interesting. But as always, the snippets, and this as well as CAWA, it's the snippets of information that you receive while you're there from other board members. No matter how small sometimes, no matter how, that really give you the insight. But it was very well attended. It was in a different room, so the hearing wasn't that well because they had an engineering thing going on in the room they're usually in. So it was a little tough to comprehend, and pretty deep for, I think, the group that was there. It would have been better for the engineers probably, or the IT people, but it was very interesting. Monday, I chaired the Finance Committee meeting held here with President Sinella, John and Tom, and we went over a few things. But one of the things I did bring up was that, you know, the system that we've used here at the special district is completely different than any I've ever seen before. With the city, we had a different way of doing it. We're talking about budgets, and business, different businesses I've been involved with, different budgeting. But this is quite different, where you try to put together all your needs and then end up with, here's the number you have to charge people, which is not done in any other business. You don't come up with this and this, because you have to cut somewhere. So we mentioned that to Tom and John. Understand that's why special districts do that, but you have to be careful when you just do that and you don't look at you know, the things. We talked about benefits. We talked about looking at quite a few things, and Director Sinella asked to have a few things brought back, I do believe.
Yes, I did.
Go right ahead.
Thanks for bringing that up. I
Sure.
was going to wait until they came back, but what really prompted me calling for the Finance Committee to meet, and thank you, Director Martin, for indulging me with that meeting, was to look at our ordinance, and I believe it was at 180 or 184? It was, or 194.
The resolution, you mean?
Yeah, the resolution, yeah.
For the purchasing?
No, as it pertained to procurement. Remember?
Purchasing.
Yeah, purchasing. And long story short, there was some language in that resolution, really good, strong language, in my opinion, that kind of outlines how we go out to bid and what different thresholds for different things. But there was some missing language in there, in my opinion, as it pertained to recompeting contracts over time. And I talked to Tom and talked to John, and they're gonna come back with some, maybe a paragraph to add to that resolution to present at a future board meeting, and then we can consider it and discuss it, and ultimately take a vote one way or the other on it. So that's coming down the pipe.
That's all I have.
I also attended the Aqua and the CASA conference. It was, first off, going back to back, in my opinion, was the way it should be done. I mean, you're going all the way out there, no need to go out there for a 2.5 day and a half conference when meld together. I mean, it was ended up being a 4-day conference, and it really was very informative, and got our face out in front of them again. You know, it somehow, sometimes is heartening. We've been going back there, and had dinner with our lobbyist, and that is the point. That is the only point. All of the rest of it is just, you know, trying to get items in front of your representatives, because when it happens, whoever's been going is the first at bat. And the rest of them are gonna be going, oh gee, maybe we should get in line now, need not apply. So that was very important. The other item that came up that was very interesting was relative to this, getting the names from the Metropolitan on the rebate. Part of that is the IRS is sending them letters telling them that that is income and they need to pay for it, and they are up in arms. So, and everyone is fighting that, and all the representatives have been sending letters to the IRS saying, no, it's not, and they're gonna work through that. They believe the couple of items that were important, the not fraudulent, the abuse of citizens' suits against the water districts and agencies. They're pushing to put some of the same language that is in other governmental policies. So these cottage industries is what they were called, that are out there suing agencies just to see if they can get 25,000, 30,000 out of them so they don't have to defend. Happened to Vallecitos, and to Olivenheim, they paid $50,000 for an honest spill that they reported, that, and once they report it, that gives the cottage industries a target, and so it shameful. So they're working on that. They're working on the Army Corps of Engineers. Lord have mercy. There is a wagon that is broken. They do not recognize recycled water as water resources, and because they only handle water resources, all of there were 11 projects that were before them that wanted to get funding, and they just dismissed them outright. So their legislation to get them on board to see that. There's not a lot of hope, I guess, but they're working at that. Pushed again for Title 16 money, which is the money through the Bureau of Reclamation, which does handle reclaimed water projects, and seems to be the shorter road to hoe to get to the money. That was very good, and it was, I have shared this because it was such a great quote. A friend of mine gave it to me, and it seems like this is the way Congress and House is working. And the quote is, "Much work remains to be done before we can announce our total failure to make any progress." And absolutely the same. And what I came away with is, whatever you want, I'm gonna be against. And whatever I want, you're gonna be against. And they're just sitting, even within their own party. If two of them have the same items, neither one of them are compromising to get anything done. So it really was sad to hear that, but we're all working at it, trying to get things done better, and it was a good conference. Likewise, I attended this morning, and what I got out of that, which was very interesting, was And I'm sorry our friend isn't here. Ann, would you call the hospitals to see if our boy is alive? We are in need of 10,000 units a year in the county of San Diego, 10,000 housing units. And because of what we went through from 2007 to today, we are 50,000 units in deficit. So we are going to be seeing projects come forward, developments come forward that we're gonna have to deal with, and water is going to be an issue that we're gonna have to grapple with to ensure that we have enough going to them. We've got kudos for the work we've done in the past, San Vicente, the desal plant, all of the good things we have. They were complaining that they needed to be a complete overhaul in the manuals that the Army Corps of Engineers has to use, because they were put together in the 50s, as I believe what I heard, that on a particular date, in the particular month, if their reservoir is at some percentage above 20, they gotta dump water. Whether they know there's water coming or not for flood control. So they have let go over 1 million acre-feet of water that they could have sent to another reservoir or somewhere in the ocean, because they could be getting all this water coming. Could be, might be, should be. So that was an interesting discussion. Same thing with the smelt. They're all anxious about the smelt. So there's just a lot of work up there that is going to be done, needs to be done, probably won't get done. But that was my report.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to other business. 4.1 inside the packet was, I'm assuming this is a new tour that was recently announced, because there's not too many that I've seen on there over a weekend. The Colorado River Aqueduct System tour that was in there.
It's that monthly tour that is put on by National Supply Water Authority.
Oh, okay.
Several organizations, the Aqueduct.
Is this the same one that Director Evans and I went on? I noticed in the write-up here, it mentions this Diamond Valley Lake. However, we didn't stop there last time. Is this different, or is this the exact same one that we went on? Do you remember?
Well, there are several different ones that go by the same name. Depends on the time of the year and what's available. So we got to go to Hoover Dam.
Mhm.
I don't believe this.
I don't think this one is.
No, and this one is focusing on the lower portion, but some people you get to go to Copper Basin and some people don't, it just depends on the time. That's why you'll see it multiple,
Okay. Well, if it's
multiple
different- if
offerings.
it's
But this
different than
one
the
with Diamond is
Yeah.
different, very
Yeah,
much
so
so.
if this is different, then I'd like to go, because they're not very often on the weekends, so this works out really well for me, that I can take a weekend and go see the infrastructure.
I think they had San Vicente Reservoir in there too.
Yeah, we made a brief stop at the very end there, but it was more like 15 minutes.
I think
Here it
San-
is, and leave. So this might be a more detailed tour.
I think it'll be fun to see because it's completed now and it's full,
Oh, okay,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, it was
So
just,
it'll be interesting to see what that is.
I don't know if anybody else wants to go on this tour,
I
please let
forgot the
Diane know.
dates on that.
It's April 16th and 17th, it's a Saturday and Sunday.
Good question?
Director Martin.
San Vicente's full? Is that what I just heard? San Vicente's full?
Well, when we were there, it was still being finished. No, it's
Right.
filling up and it's very close to full.
Okay, it's not, they're not
We got
allowing-
permission to continue to fill it.
But they're not allowing, right, that was the problem, you have to get permission every so.
As it cures and does its thing.
Yeah, okay.
So, if we get
So
a
it's not over for
huge,
boating yet.
no.
No fishing yet.
Okay.
Okay, so if anybody else wants to go, let Diane know, please. Moving on to 5.1, director's comments or future agenda items. Did you want to reiterate, Director Evans, what you were?
Yes, I would really like it if we could squeeze that into the agenda next, on the 16th.
What is the specific?
It's to have,
water
just have a
presentation?
presentation by the Water Authority.
Zoning
I-
urban management plan?
It would be, yeah, well, I told, I did ask if they would be available, and they are available, and I think that's a good time before we get, while these issues are being discussed.
Did I hear you correctly, that that's something that would be most appropriate in closed session?
No, I don't think it would be closed session.
Just to-
That's where I want them to present to you and let you ask your direct questions. I mean, Director Martin's had several really good questions, but I'm not sure how to answer them for fear I'll say something
Oh, you're talking about a presentation
from the
based off of
Water
some of
Authority,
their
and it would
closed
probably
sessions.
be the
Yeah.
GM or the assistant
Yeah,
GM.
that would be really nice to have a
And
presentation from them.
what I was wondering, if you had a few seconds or minutes, if you had any specific questions you'd want to know on, like, so that we can kind of forewarn them and tell them it's X amount of time, but let them know what you might be asking questions on.
I don't have anything off the top of my head, but can we?
You said urban water management?
Well, the urban water management plan is in. I think they'd be very interested in what's going on with the
Okay,
net
yes,
and
thank you.
exploration with the rate structure. And you may be interested in the litigations and the outcome and where that's headed with net.
Yeah, and if the board members have a question between now and that presentation, maybe they can send it to Dennis.
That would be
and
to
then-
Dennis or Tom would be great.
Um,
And then.
I do want to add, though, if I can, I'm going to be out of the country April 2nd, which I believe is our first meeting in April,
April 2nd,
or is that April?
April 6th.
April 6th, I'm sorry.
Will you be gone?
I will be landing April 6th at 6:30 PM from London, so I doubt I'll be in.
Would you like
able
us to
make
have
it.
the
Make it
meeting at
So,
7:30?
Yeah, I'll come straight from the airport. So maybe, because I don't want to miss that presentation, maybe we can have them come to the following meeting?
No, I'm asking them to come next meeting, March 16th.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here.
Wait.
Cool.
Comments?
Yes, Director Martin.
I have a comment, and maybe I'm the only one that caught this. And Tom, this will be for you. At our last meeting, we were informed by our PR person, Chris, he does a wonderful job, great guy, that we're having a photo op on the 14th of March. I believe he said the 14th.
At 10:30, I think, that's what I have.
Yeah, okay. Out at San Alejo for the new pump station. It's just interesting, it wasn't an arbitrary number, because I can't make it, and it happens to be in my district, so I'm very concerned about it. But it was like, matter of fact, we're having it that day, that time, be there. Which is okay if that's the policy we're gonna take for everybody from now on. I know you're looking at me with a confused look.
Yeah, well, this was the joint, you're talking about the joint Olevenhain.
Mhm.
It
and,
came up at the last meeting.
It's
And
the
if it was
Olevenhain.
joint, then Olevenhain had already decided, because we were told when we were gonna be there. It wasn't really a joint you decide, it was, Olevenhain said this is the date and time, because that's what we were told at that meeting, and I'm like, I can't make that, because I'm gonna be out of town on business, water reuse.
Yeah.
And I really would like to change that, because I think that is a good photo op, especially because it's in my district. And I think just to lay that on us was a little bit inconsiderate, without finding out who's in town and who's not, what we always do. Diane's awesome at it, Dennis is awesome at it, everybody's awesome at it, but for this, it was like, hey, this is the way it is. And it's like, it is a photo opportunity, people have asked questions as to what's going on out there during the entire time. We didn't let anybody know for splash or anything, we didn't give out any information, it was a top secret. So I would like to be there for that grand opening, but I cannot make it on the 14th.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that for you, because it is something that we put together jointly. It's, yeah, wasn't a huge event, it was just supposed to be, we're up and
Well,
running.
Three of us are gonna be at the water reuse.
Yeah, that would be
So there's
that would
three
be
of
a
us, the
shame.
quorum is not gonna be there.
That would be a shame.
I'm
if,
glad it worked out for Leonheim, but it doesn't work out for us.
Mhm.
And I was gonna bring it up that night, the way that it was presented, but I didn't wanna create any waves. It's like, well, wait, none of us are gonna be there. So we were just told when it was gonna be. It's like, no, that's not normally how you do things here, but maybe you're changing policy. I don't know. You can let me know, though. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or future agenda items?
And the last thing is, I did bring up, I do wanna do a photo op as well, at our new Cherokee desal.
Connection.
Yeah, I brought it up at the last meeting, I haven't heard anything about it, showing a pipe, showing all this there with big smiley faces. Part of our outreach is to get out to the public and let them know we're doing something. By doing that, you get information out by using Splash, by using press releases, by using all those things that I'm sure are in our packet from CATS. And we're not doing anything yet. So maybe we need to get on that? Just a question.
anything else? Director Elzar?
Yeah, at the last meeting, I had asked to do some public outreach on the Flint, Michigan
Mhm, yeah.
situation.
Yeah, we just got a technical revision on that. That might even be out now, the outreach piece of the, what do you call it, the news, what do you call it?
Press release?
Press release, thank you. Drew blank.
Is
Yes,
something going on the website?
yes, both on the website and a press release.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
And will we get it sent to us so we can see it?
Sure, it'll be posted on the website, but I can
But
make sure
does
you get it.
Wait, I don't look,
The press release would be.
okay, thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I'd forgotten that you had brought that up, but over this last weekend, a customer actually reached out to me and was asking about Flint, so it's definitely
Yeah,
on their
people
minds.
are asking
yeah.
questions.
So. Super. Okay, we just need a motion to go into closed session, is that all we need?
So move, 5-minute recess?
There's a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm sorry,